Taylor Swift slipping past paparazzi with underground tunnels. Elon Musk boarding flights so hidden they don't even show up on trackers. Drake cruising in planes decked out like palaces in the sky. The richest don't just travel, they vanish. And what they use to stay invisible is stranger, safer, and more expensive than you could ever imagine. Take Taylor Swift. Most people assume she just shows up at airports like anyone else. But in reality, Swift has mastered disappearing acts. She's been spotted leaving venues straight into convoys that bypass crowds entirely. And in some airports, she uses hidden VIP corridors designed so celebrities can step directly from a car onto a jet without anyone seeing them. It's the kind of setup that makes even first-class passengers feel like they're waiting for the bus. And she's not the only one. While fans are refreshing flight trackers trying to guess where her tour is heading next, billionaires and A-listers are using methods that make those same trackers useless. Some even deploy decoy vehicles or schedule fake departures just to throw the public off the scent. Now let's move from pop stars to hip-hop royalty, because Drake's approach to flying takes luxury in the skies to an entirely different level. Drake doesn't just own a private jet, he owns Air Drake, a flying mansion. Most celebrities lease jets for a few years or hop between charters, but Drake had an entire Boeing 767 handed to him through a partnership with Cargojet. That's right, a full-blown commercial airliner, the kind that normally shuttles hundreds of passengers across continents, converted into one man's personal toy. And this isn't some soulless corporate bird stripped bare with a leather seat upgrade. Drake turned it into a floating palace. The inside is rumored to feature luxury lounges, plush leather recliners, marble accents, and even private bedrooms, all decorated with his signature OVO flair. The outside, painted in sky blue clouds with his OVO owl perched proudly on the tail, so there's zero chance you'll mistake it for a boring business jet. If most celebrities fly private like they're showing off sports cars, Drake went ahead and bought himself a cruise ship with wings. But here's the kicker. Running a Boeing 767 is not like fueling up a Gulfstream. The sheer cost is insane. Flying Air Drake across the Atlantic can rack up fuel bills in the hundreds of thousands of dollars. Maintenance alone can hit millions per year, since the jet is essentially operated like a mini airline. It requires a full crew, specialized hangars, and custom clearances at airports just to land. In other words, it's not just a flex, it's an empire on wheels, or in this case, on wings. And that's where the controversy starts, because while fans swoon over Instagram clips of Air Drake rolling down runways like a music video prop, environmental watchdogs have dragged Drake into headlines for something else: flight tracking. Aviation enthusiasts can monitor his jet using public databases, and when they started posting about short flights, like trips under 20 minutes, the internet lit up with criticism. Why burn thousands of gallons of fuel just to skip a car ride? Drake responded by saying many of those flights were repositioning trips, not him personally, but the backlash proves how even billionaires can't keep every part of their travel secret. Still, when it comes to disappearing in plain sight, Drake's jet is the perfect mix of spectacle and stealth. Flashy enough to announce his presence when he wants to, but powered by the same private terminal networks and unlisted flight paths that allow him to slip from Toronto to Dubai without ever passing through a crowded airport lounge. And if Drake is proof that celebrities use jets as a flex, Elon Musk is proof that billionaires use them as shields. Because for Musk, flying isn't about comfort, it's about security, secrecy, and staying one step ahead of anyone trying to follow him. Musk primarily flies on a Gulfstream G650ER, one of the fastest and longest range private jets in the world. This isn't a casual perk, it's a necessity. Between Tesla factories, SpaceX launches, and global meetings, his schedule demands a plane that can leap from Los Angeles to Shanghai without stopping. But the real story isn't the jet, it's the secrecy around it. See, Musk's travel has been one of the most heavily tracked in the world. Flight tracking enthusiasts post his jet's movements online in real time, and the backlash has been massive. On one hand, it exposes how much time he spends in the air. On the other, it creates security concerns. Musk himself has publicly complained about being stalked through these trackers, even calling it a direct personal safety risk. At one point, he offered money to a teenager who was running a Twitter account posting his jet's location just to get him to stop. To deal with this, Musk's team reportedly uses multiple tactics to stay invisible. His Gulfstream often departs from private terminals far from commercial crowds, with boarding happening behind layers of security. Sometimes decoy flight plans are filed, making it harder to predict his exact route. There are even whispers of deliberate last-minute schedule changes, moving flights up or back by hours, so that anyone trying to follow his trail gets thrown off completely. And unlike Drake, Musk doesn't flaunt the inside of his jet. No Instagram tours, no flashy exteriors, no branded paint jobs. To him, it's a mobile command center, a place where he can hold meetings, manage billion-dollar deals, and if stories are to be believed, catch a few minutes of sleep between 18-hour workdays. It's less party in the sky and more secret war room at 40,000 feet. But what really sets Musk apart is how his jet represents the billionaire playbook for staying invisible. Celebrities like Swift or Drake vanish from paparazzi. Billionaires like Musk vanish from the entire map. And his tactics, private terminals, false trails, hidden departures, set the stage for how the ultra-rich bend the rules of travel to stay untouchable. And Musk isn't alone. Other billionaires have learned to weaponize air travel not just for convenience, but for secrecy on a global scale. Which brings us to the next level of invisible travel, where it stops being about luxury and starts being about survival. If Musk's jet is a war room, Jeff Bezos' jet is a throne. Bezos flies on a Gulfstream G650ER too. But while Musk treats his like a stealth machine, Bezos leans into pure luxury. And when you've got a net worth that regularly hovers around $180 billion, you don't exactly fly economy. For Bezos, air travel is about speed and control. As the founder of Amazon, he spent years building a company that delivers in 2 days or less, and his plane operates on the same principle. The G650ER can cross oceans non-stop, connecting Seattle, New York, London, and his private homes with ease. It's not just a jet, it's a teleportation device for someone whose time is valued at millions of dollars per hour. But Bezos doesn't stop at one plane. Amazon has its own cargo fleet, Prime Air, operating dozens of branded 767s that move packages around the globe. Technically, those are company planes, not personal toys. But when you own the company, the line between business and personal gets very blurry. If Musk treats flying like a chess game, Bezos treats it like an empire. His jets, his pilots, his logistics, his sky. And then there's the security. When you're worth more than small countries, your movements are carefully choreographed. Private terminals, armored SUVs rolling straight onto the tarmac, and sometimes even decoy vehicles leaving at the same time to confuse anyone trying to track him. Bezos is known for keeping his personal life tightly guarded, and air travel is no exception. It's as much about disappearing as it is about arriving. The irony? Bezos owns Blue Origin, his space company, so while the rest of us are stressing over connecting flights, he's literally building rockets to skip airports entirely. For him, today's private jet might just be a warm-up for tomorrow's Starship. But if Bezos shows how billionaires use the skies as personal playgrounds, Bill Gates offers a different twist. Because for Gates, flying private is less about flexing wealth and more about defending it, with one very controversial trade-off. Bill Gates might be known for philanthropy and pushing climate awareness, but when it comes to air travel, he's just as private as any billionaire, and a lot more controversial. Gates owns multiple private jets, including a Gulfstream G650ER and a Bombardier Global Express, each worth tens of millions. For him, these jets aren't luxury toys, they're tools. Gates' schedule is packed with global conferences, meetings with world leaders, and visits to foundations across the planet. A commercial flight just doesn't cut it when your time is measured in billions. But here's where the paradox comes in. Gates has been one of the loudest voices on climate change, urging governments to reduce emissions and invest in cleaner energy, and yet his personal carbon footprint from flying private is massive. Critics love to point out the irony. The man telling the world to cut back on fossil fuels is cruising around the globe in aircraft that burn thousands of gallons of jet fuel on a single trip. Gates has addressed this, claiming that the work he does, funding climate solutions, vaccines, and public health initiatives, offsets the emissions from his travel. He's also invested in sustainable aviation fuel and climate tech startups, trying to bridge the gap between his lifestyle and his message. Still, the optics are tough to shake. Every time his jet gets spotted on a tracker, the debate fires up all over again. And unlike Drake or Musk, Gates isn't flashy with his travel. No Instagram tours, no painted logos, no public bragging. His jets are understated, discreet, and designed to move quietly from one country to the next without drawing attention. For Gates, secrecy isn't about hiding from paparazzi, it's about efficiency. He values being able to step off a plane directly into a convoy, hold a meeting within the hour, and then jump back on board without wasting time. But if Gates is the billionaire who sparks debate, then the next example takes secrecy to a whole other level, because while celebrities dodge cameras and billionaires dodge critics, world leaders and royalty use methods that make even private jets look like child's play. If billionaires fly private to save time, world leaders and royalty do it to protect lives. And the difference shows, because while Drake paints clouds on his jet and Bezos slips into Gulf Streams, kings, queens, and presidents move with an entire nation behind them. Take the British royal family. When King Charles or Prince William travel, it's not just a matter of hopping on a jet. There are military escorts, security convoys, and entire airports placed on standby. Their aircraft are fitted with encrypted communications, emergency defense systems, and staff trained to respond to almost any situation at 40,000 feet. And here's the part most people don't realize. Sometimes they fly commercial on purpose. Not because they have to, but as a PR move, blending in with everyday passengers to appear more relatable. Of course, even then, they're surrounded by security, and you'll never see them queuing at a Starbucks inside Terminal 3. Now compare that to the President of the United States. Air Force One isn't just a plane, it's a flying fortress. It has advanced radar jammers, defenses against missiles, and a communications hub capable of running the entire country mid-air. Inside, it's part war room, part luxury hotel with suites, offices, and medical facilities. Whenever the president flies, multiple planes often take off at the same time, including decoys, so no one can be sure which one is the real Air Force One until it lands. And then there's the Middle East, where oil wealth has redefined the meaning of private jet. Saudi royalty, for example, often travel in custom jumbo jets, full-size Boeing 747s converted into flying palaces. Think gold-plated bathrooms, prayer rooms, crystal chandeliers, even gyms and spas at cruising altitude. These aren't just private planes, they're airborne palaces designed to project power as much as they are to provide comfort. But here's the kicker, the secrecy. World leaders and royal families often use decoy convoys on the ground, fake motorcades leaving airports, and hidden entrances built directly into terminals. You'll never see them waiting at baggage claim, not just because they don't need to, but because the logistics are choreographed down to the second to make sure no one outside their circle knows exactly where they are until it's too late. When jets aren't enough, or when flying becomes too risky, some of the richest and most powerful turn to the ground. And make no mistake, these setups aren't limos or sprinter vans. They're moving fortresses. Let's start with trains. While most people think of train travel as slow and outdated, certain billionaires and leaders use them as the ultimate stealth vehicle. Russia's Vladimir Putin is rumored to travel by armored train more often than by plane. Why? Because trains can move quietly under the radar. No flight trackers, no radar signals, no airspace clearance required. His train reportedly has bulletproof carriages, encrypted communication systems, and even luxury conference rooms, so he can govern in motion. It blends in with regular rail traffic until you look closer and realize it's a steel-plated bunker on wheels. And Putin isn't the only one. Some Middle Eastern royals have commissioned private luxury trains for regional travel, designed like 5-star hotels rolling through the desert. We're talking king-size suites, private dining cars, security escorts trailing behind on parallel tracks. It's basically a palace on rails. To the outside world, it looks like just another train. Inside, it's a traveling kingdom. Then there are the armored convoys. For billionaires like Elon Musk, Jeff Bezos, or royalty like King Charles, moving on the ground often means fleets of SUVs with bulletproof plating, run-flat tires, and smokescreen capabilities. Some convoys use decoys, multiple identical vehicles leaving at once, so nobody knows which one carries the VIP. In certain cases, entire routes are cleared ahead of time by police or private security, making sure the ride is smooth and, more importantly, untraceable. The wildest part? These convoys and trains aren't always just about safety. They're about sending a message. Rolling into a city with a fleet of blacked-out vehicles or an armored train says one thing loud and clear: power travels differently. And yet, even these steel fortresses pale compared to the next level of invisible travel, because when billionaires and leaders don't just want luxury or security, but complete vanishing power, they turn to something far stranger: decoy strategies and ghost flights, where the goal isn't just to move quietly, but to make the world believe you're somewhere else entirely. If luxury jets and armored trains are about comfort and safety, ghost flights are about disappearing entirely. This is where travel stops being transportation and starts looking like a spy thriller. For the ultra-rich and the politically powerful, one of the oldest tricks in the book is the decoy flight. Here's how it works. 2 or more identical jets are prepared on the runway. One leaves with the billionaire or leader on board, while the other departs minutes later empty, flying a mirrored route. Anyone tracking the planes online or watching from the ground can't be sure which jet carries the VIP. To the outside world, it's like a magician's sleight of hand in the sky. But sometimes the trick is even subtler. These are called ghost flights, planes that appear on flight trackers trackers, taking off as if they're carrying someone important, but in reality they're empty. Meanwhile, the real passenger has already slipped away through another route, often a private airfield no one's paying attention to. It's misdirection on a global scale, and it works because most people assume planes listed on trackers must have someone on board. Even on the ground, decoys play a massive role. Convoys often send multiple SUVs in different directions, each with tinted windows and look-alike drivers. Which one has the billionaire? Only the security team knows. To outsiders, it's a shell game played with bulletproof cars. These tactics aren't just about hiding from paparazzi. They're used to evade stalkers, political rivals, or even assassination attempts. Imagine being so powerful or so vulnerable that you need to run a magic trick every time you leave your driveway. For most of us, missing a flight is an inconvenience. For them, being predictable could be fatal. And yet, even ghost flights and decoy convoys pale in comparison to the rarest, most extravagant form of secret travel of all, the kind reserved for the richest royals, oligarchs, and political dynasties. Because some don't just vanish into jets or trains, they build entire hidden airports and private terminals, places regular travelers don't even know exist. For most travelers, airports are chaos, security lines, gate changes, and the dreaded middle seat. But for billionaires and world leaders, the airport experience isn't just upgraded, it's rewritten entirely. Because when you're rich enough, you don't just use airports, you build your own. Take Los Angeles International Airport. Most people think of LAX as a nightmare of traffic and crowds, but hidden on the far side of the runways sits the private suite, now rebranded as PS. It's a luxury terminal that's completely separate from the main airport. For a hefty membership fee, celebrities and billionaires get whisked through a private entrance, cleared by on-site TSA in under 5 minutes, and then driven across the tarmac directly to their jet in a black BMW. No lines, no paparazzi, no announcements over a loudspeaker telling you your gate has changed. Just silence, champagne, and security. And PS is only the beginning. Similar hidden terminals exist in London, Dubai, and New York, each one designed to funnel VIPs away from the chaos of everyday travelers. Some are tucked inside existing airports, disguised behind unmarked doors. Others are completely separate facilities, invisible to the public unless you know exactly where to look. Then there are the true outliers, private airfields owned outright by billionaires or royal families. These aren't just landing strips, they're full-scale airports built on private estates. With their own control towers, hangars, and staff, they allow the ultra-wealthy to take off and land on their own schedules without ever interacting with commercial aviation. To neighbors, it looks like a quiet estate in the countryside. To insiders, it's a launch pad for jets that can circle the globe. The secrecy goes even deeper. Some of these terminals are wired with private security teams, biometric scanners, and underground tunnels that connect directly to convoys waiting outside. It's travel so seamless that the passenger can move from mansion to jet without ever stepping into public view. For the rest of us, the airport is the stressful start of a trip. For them, it's a disappearing act. And while hidden terminals make celebrities and billionaires feel untouchable, the rarest form of secret travel takes things one step further, beyond luxury, beyond privacy, into a level of invisibility that blurs the line between reality and science fiction. Because the richest don't just hide in planes or palaces, some of them vanish with methods that feel almost impossible. By now, we've seen how billionaires and world leaders use jets, trains, convoys, and even ghost flights to vanish. But the rarest methods of all don't just hide people from view, they erase them from the map entirely. One of the wildest examples, no-fly zones created just for a single person. In certain countries, when a royal or political figure takes off, entire chunks of airspace are shut down. Commercial flights are rerouted, flight trackers go blank, and for a few hours, it's as if the skies themselves belong to one person. To everyone else, it looks like a glitch in the system. In reality, it's raw power flexed on a global scale. Then there are the floating fortresses at sea. Some billionaires use super yachts not just as vacation toys, but as mobile travel hubs. These yachts are equipped with helipads, mini submarines, and even their own missile defense systems. Imagine leaving your estate, driving into a tunnel, boarding a helicopter, and landing on a yacht that's already halfway to Monaco, never once touching a public space. To outsiders, you vanished. To insiders, it's just another Tuesday. And perhaps the most science fiction move of all, planes that don't officially exist. Certain military contractors and ultra-wealthy defense buyers have access to aircraft so classified they aren't listed on public registries. They fly on encrypted schedules, don't appear on radar in conventional ways, and land at private strips that aren't marked on commercial maps. To the average traveler, they're invisible. To those who use them, they're the ultimate one-way ticket out of sight. These extreme methods reveal the real truth. For the richest, travel isn't about luxury anymore. It's about erasing the inconvenience of being seen. Whether it's Taylor Swift slipping into a tunnel, Musk running decoy flight flight plans, or a billionaire literally commanding the skies to empty. What ties them all together is the same idea. The rules the rest of us live by don't apply to them. And that leaves one lingering question. If you had this kind of power, would you use it to escape the world, or would you use it to disappear from it entirely?